Number 8. Amy Copeland. In May of 2012, Amy Copeland and a couple of her friends decided to spend the day on the bank of a local river in Carrollton, Georgia. They found a homemade zipline suspended about 6 feet above the water. On Copeland's second turn, the wire snapped and she took a hard fall. A bleeding gash opened up in her left calf. Doctors closed the wound, which required 22 stitches, but it would be just the beginning of Copeland's ordeal. Several days later, the 24-year-old developed necrotizing fasciitis, a flesh-eating bacteria infection. To save her life, doctors had to amputate portions of all 4 of Copeland's limbs. She lost both arms below the elbow, her left leg up to her hip, and her right leg below the knee. The long road to recovery was arduous, but Copeland would ultimately become an inspiration to everyone around her. She relearned all the outdoor activities she once loved, like biking, kayaking, and swimming. Copeland also obtained a master's degree in social work and started a foundation dedicated to helping people with disabilities reconnect with the world. Ziplines are mounted on a slope and use gravity to propel cargo or people across the length of a cable, which is usually made out of stainless steel. Riders are attached to the cable via a harness and a pulley with a grooved wheel called a sheave, which reduces friction and enables them to achieve greater speed. The steeper the slope, the faster they'll be able to travel while also having means of braking. Nowadays, ziplining is mostly known in the context of adventure sports, but its origins can be traced back to antiquity. In China, Japan, and India, it's been used as a means of transportation, possibly as early as 250 BC. These ropeways would sometimes feature a system of pulleys and weren't always assisted by gravity, meaning not all of them fitted the current definition of a zipline. Throughout history, they've been used, particularly in mountainous regions, as a means of rapidly delivering supplies to troops or people in areas that were hard to reach. In the adventure sport framework, zipline operators should adhere to rigorous safety standards. When they don't, the consequences can be deadly. Number 7. Lisa Lamb. In 2016, Lisa Lamb suffered fatal injuries in a ziplining accident in Utah. The 55-year-old woman from South Carolina was going anywhere from 30 to 60 miles per hour when the top of a tree suddenly broke off and fell onto the path of the zipline. Lamb collided with the obstacle and died within minutes after suffering multiple broken ribs and internal injuries. She was found unconscious and not breathing while still suspended from her harness. A coroner listed the official cause of death as blunt force trauma. The zipline operator wasn't held responsible, as there was no way they could have foreseen or prepared for such an incident. Today's featured fan shoutout is Instagram follower Official Curtis Buck. To appear in our next video, send us your pic rocking the latest merch from theywillkillyou.com and send it in to us on Instagram today. Number 6. Tina Werner. 59-year-old Tina Werner was trying out ziplining as part of her bucket list when she took a fatal fall. She chose Go Ape Zipline and Treetop Adventure, Delaware. According to the operator, the elderly woman had taken part in the 30-minute safety training session prior to climbing onto the platform. As she did so, however, Werner lost her balance and somehow became detached from her harness. She fell from an estimated 35 feet and died from multiple blunt force trauma injuries. Ziplining can be done anywhere in the world, both for practical and entertainment purposes. In Yunga, Bolivia, ziplines are used to transport coca harvests above a 650-foot gorge. Children in Los Pinos, Colombia, use a zipline to get to their school located across a deep canyon. In the Amazon rainforest, they were set up for tourists as well as researchers studying the natural environment. Tourist ziplines may also be found in the area of the Niagara Falls above the Las Vegas Strip, in the Alps, over the Alaskan wilderness, as well as over the beaches and through the canopies in some of the world's most stunning natural landscapes. The longest zipline can be found in the United Arab Emirates and is called the Jebel Jais Flight. It has an unbroken span of nearly 9,300 feet, which is longer than the Hollywood Walk of Fame, giving tourists the chance to zipline through the country's tallest mountains. The world's fastest zipline is Velocity 2, which goes above a quarry in Bethesda, Wales. Riders can reportedly reach over 100 miles per hour. Number 5. Dean Sanderson. After visiting their son at the Army Academy, Dean Sanderson and his wife Shannon decided to go ziplining at the jungle surfing canopy north of Cairns, Australia. They were on the line that had the longest drop. They'd reached about the middle of the lane when the cable snapped, leaving both of them to plummet towards the rainforest floor 50 feet below. Another couple who was waiting their turn behind them struggled to recover after witnessing the incident. They remember the cable twanging back into the air as it ruptured and Shannon letting out a terrifying scream as she fell. She'd suffered spine injuries and was airlifted to a hospital where her condition was pronounced as stable. 50-year-old Dean died on impact. He was first on the line, and it's believed that the weight of his body had helped break Shannon's fall. Number 4. Robert Cadman. Robert Cadman is among the first zipline-related fatalities in recorded history. In 18th century England, the man worked as a steeplejack. This meant that he climbed chimneys and other tall structures to carry out repairs. Cadman was also an entertainer who performed daring feats such as tightrope walking and ziplining. In Dover, he'd reportedly ziplined from a high cliff across the harbour and into the street. In Shrewsbury, he attached a rope to the top of the 223-foot spire at St Mary's Church and connected the other end to an anchor on the ground. He performed tricks as he walked the 820-foot distance across these points. Then, once at the top of the spire, Cadman would zipline to the ground while wearing a wooden breastplate with a central groove. He put on these performances from 1711 to 1739. Then, in early February of 1739, Cadman would suffer a fatal accident. Cadman took a devastating fall as the rope broke. He was buried in St Mary's, where a plaque in his memory can still be found to this day. Speed and height, coupled with the improper management of safety protocols, are the main factors by which ziplining can have a fatal outcome. A cable or harness failure can send the rider plummeting to their death. Colliding with objects in the environment or other riders is also a risk. Another danger is brake failure, which may cause the rider to crash into platforms at great speed. Analyzing the risks involved, experts have determined that ziplining is at least as dangerous as rock climbing. Ziplining is poorly regulated worldwide, and there's no official database for the number of fatalities. However, news reports indicate that in the US alone there have been at least a dozen deaths from 2006 to 2017. Non-fatal injuries may consist of anything from cuts and bruises to bone fractures and internal damage. In 2012, emergency rooms in the US reported over 3,600 cases of zipline-related injuries. Number 3. Gail Tishman. While honeymooning in Honduras, Israeli man Gail Tishman suffered fatal injuries during a ziplining tour. As Tishman took his turn, he didn't realize that his wife, 27-year-old Shiv Fankin, was stuck about halfway down. What followed was a high-speed collision that left the couple with severe injuries. It's unclear what lane the couple was gliding down, but some of the attraction's ziplines were suspended up to 300 feet above ground. Fankin was airlifted to a hospital where doctors managed to stabilize her condition. Tishman unfortunately suffered fatal brain hemorrhage. Today's topic was requested by Alexa K. Otero, Kamari Bay, and E.M.L. Donahue. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Spencer Donaldson. A Canadian tourist visiting northern Thailand died while ziplining after the cable he was attached to snapped. 25-year-old Spencer Donaldson was gliding down an attraction called Flight of the Gibbon, which counts itself among the longest zip lines in Asia. The cable failed soon after he'd left the platform at the start of the course. According to local reports, Donaldson fell from over 330 feet and tumbled down a hill. The accident ended his life and an investigation was subsequently launched. It seems that the man was only attached to 3 cables, while safety requirements needed 8. Donaldson reportedly weighed around 275 pounds, and on the attraction's website, riders were required to weigh less. It's these aspects that seem to indicate a degree of fatal negligence on the operator's part. Ziplining can be an exhilarating ride that sends you flying through the air at roller coaster speeds. However, the desire to take part in this experience should never trump safety. This is why it's important to properly research an operator and make sure they have a good safety record. personal observation of the condition of the platforms, cables, and other pieces of equipment provides additional information towards whether or not you should go through with the ride. Always listen to the safety briefing and make sure to follow the instructions. Wear a helmet and never jump off a platform until you're specifically told to do so. It's also recommended that you empty your pockets and wear comfortable clothing, as well as closed-toed shoes. Number 1. Patricia Rabaliza. In May of 2014, a Maui woman fell 150 feet to her death in a zipline accident near Piolo Ranch. 29-year-old Patricia Rabaliza worked for the operator, Piolo Ranch Zipline, as a guide. Rescuers rushed to the site of the accident but had a hard time getting to her because of the wet and rough terrain. She was ultimately pronounced dead at the scene. A police investigation later revealed the circumstances surrounding the woman's accident. Rabaliza was working on a platform without being attached to a safety harness. A rider moving fast struck the springs at the end of a zipline and was propelled backwards. Rabaliza tried to secure the rider and pull them back, but instead, both were pulled away from the platform. The woman held onto the rider for as long as she could, but ultimately lost her grip and suffered a deadly drop. Thanks for watching. Would you rather ride the world's fastest zipline or experience the world's highest bungee jump? Let us know in the comments section below.